Hello there watchers, it's Copper Oracle here with an update, part 2 of my Erin project. Okay, so just as a quick recap, Erin is a 28mm skirmish wargame from Alternative Armies based in Celtic Ireland during the invasion cycle. So you've got several sort of human and non-human races battling against sort of evil Fomorians and other sort of mythical creatures with a sort of real strong sort of storytelling focus as well and narrative. Okay, so I picked up the starter set, which is the rule book and 2 baseline warbands, which are the She and the Fomorians. So I've not had a huge amount of time to get the 2 warbands done in themselves, unfortunately. What I have been able to do is get them all based, which certainly is a start. I've actually gone for you do get some ceramic bases with them, so ceramic resin rather. I've actually gone for these sort of wide-lipped bases, purely because I already have several of the skirmish games with these sort of style bases, and I quite like the extra space I get for building little bits of terrain and decorating the bases on them. In terms of the Fomorians, which is this warband here, the bases are quite minimal. In fact, I've literally glued down the metal base and added some PVA and sand and small stones. So I'm not added an awful lot of height or texture to them. Partly because with these guys, the idea is they're quite sort of dark, aquatic creatures, so they're sort of living on sort of very sort of muddy swamp areas. So I actually want to go for quite a dark, muddy base. So I don't need an awful lot there. So part of the sort of the basing is purely just to actually cover up the metal bases themselves. And certainly with some of them, there's a little bit of detail there, some stonework there, built on the original sculpture, which is quite nice. The only one I haven't done that is actually the boss. So the boss is actually on a wider base. So all my heroes will be on wider bases to sort of highlight them. Added a fair bit of cork work, which is basically just small broken bits of cork to add some extra texture and break up the sort of quite large metal bases on. And the front section here, I've left quite a trough. What I want to do is actually add some water effects, so it'll be like he's on the edge of the swamp or some sort of marshland. So I'll be adding that to him. So that's the Fomorian unit, and then for the good guys, the She, the sort of Celtic elves. Again, I've got 6 troopers, so 6 warriors. All on the sort of one size. What I've done there, certainly with a couple of them, added some cork detail just to break up that sort of the original metal base, the one that's all painted. That would just be a little bit more organic. And with a couple of them, because they actually they are quite wide apart in terms of where their feet are, I've actually cut away the base from the front leg. So literally the original base, just a bit of metal there, it's just the back half. Slipped in a sliver of cork underneath and put his foot on there. So actually he can still fit on the base, looks great. There's a bit more dynamism to actually his pose as well, like he's striding forward and sort of pausing on that. So there's that one, which that's done. And there's another one as well, which ended up, there we are, yeah. So that's that one there as well. So he's had that done with the split base as well. And then there's also the 2 leaders, the 2 heroes. So they've got the broader bases to tie in with the unit leader there. So you know who your leaders are. Again, some more cork work, add some more texture and detail there. And certainly in terms of these guys, because they're sort of the more heroic element, there will be that sort of more marshy mud, dark brown effect that I want for this sort of setup. But there'll be more flowers and greenery to indicate more life and vibrancy than perhaps the Fomorian side. What I have been able to do though, in terms of sort of a bit more solid progress, is and certainly one of the reasons I was attracted to this was I picked up several years ago, okay, I say several, 20 plus, a Fomorian. Could never decide on how I wanted to paint him, and then it just sort of came to me, and spent a very furious evening painting him up completely. So that was the first one done. So that's given me a palette to use for Fomorians, but also the base as well. So the base, as you can see there, I've gone for a very sort of dark, muddy sort of look. Sort of dead leaves and sort of dark, damp earth, and sort of dead bracken and dead leaf work and stuff as well. So that's, in terms of the colour scheme, that's going to be the pattern for the Fomorians, and those sort of soft colours, but very sort of dirty and grubby. So that one I'd actually done while waiting for the starter pack to arrive. I then was able to pick up a couple of figures on eBay, which were actually a whole other unit plus one. So I think the original unit in the book is 4 figures, and this one's from another set. So these are the half dead. So in the narrative, these are individuals who have been drowned or been sort of ambushed and killed, but actually through magic they've been prevented from passing on to the next world, and actually used as a sort of a mercenary unit that can be summoned by the Fomorians or the Furbolg, which is another race. So now these ones again are Bob Ollie sculpts. I'm not sure what this can show quite as much detail as I want, but they are amazingly detailed sculpts in terms of this sort of decayed, I wouldn't say zombie, doesn't seem to quite fit in this sort of context, but sort of warriors who've basically just been refused to die. So with these, it's four figures plus this one, which I think you can actually get with another sort of undead, half-dead hero. But I got the 5 together. I struggled a bit in terms of initially actually getting these done, because I wasn't sure what kind of palette to go with them. I tried the sort of the half. The full zombie didn't work. We just seemed out of place in the context, in the sort of historical context. Just a little bit of tint, but actually I've just gone for a sort of almost drowned. I even looked at to the sort of the Game of Thrones, very sort of almost monochrome look. But again, it was just a bit too stark compared to everything else that I had planned and or the colours I was looking for. So I've actually gone for this sort of pale skin, but actually the sort of where the body's been rent and torn, the sort of the raw flesh underneath sort of comes through, and there's still sort of the faded woad paint. So that's one of the female warriors there, and again the sort of the bases have gone for the dark muddy look. That one. Okay, it's the next one. So completely unarmed, but just actually quite a classic zombie pose. With him, there's better shots on my blog, so I'll post this up as part of my blog as well. My first attempt at doing some sort of tartan effect, which I'm actually quite pleased with, all told. So again, muddy base and sort of advancing forward. Almost fully nude warrior there. So again, sort of very decayed body, rusted tools. The shield is sort of battered and worn, but you can still see the sort of the flaked remains of a black and white pattern paintwork and the rusted metalwork there. So I wanted to go for, again, the fact that they've really been dredged up and sort of dragged up against their will and forced to fight. The first one I did for the thing that finally settled on the design. Again, arms torn off, weapons embedded in his body, and sort of an awful lot of flayed skin. Sort of raw wounds, and just a hint of woad on the eyes as well there. And then the last one, get another warrior in a kilt, and I actually again did a bit of pattern work on there, which certainly gives me some good ideas for sort of my other warriors when I do some of those. That sort of brown with a sort of lattice effect. I quite like. I might do that for the Furbolg if I end up getting those as a warband as well, which will probably happen, I think. Okay, so that's all of those. So those I'm really pleased with, and it's given me some template ideas for the other things. In terms of other stuff towards the project, what I've actually been doing is My other sort of wargaming love is actually an awful lot of terrain. When I don't have an awful lot of time, it's quite easy for me to dip in and out and do terrain. Go in, paint everything grey, come back an hour later, paint everything in a darker grey and shade it through. One of the things I use quite a lot, and certainly work with this sort of wargaming thing, is actually sort of wooden bark. Now you can pick this up fairly cheaply, or if you're just wandering around, or children's play parks, they have an awful lot of cork base as the sort of soft landing areas. So if you grab a couple of pieces, obviously not an awful lot because they kind of need it to fall on, the odd piece here and there, or certainly go to woods and it's on the floor and stuff. Once it's painted up, it looks fantastic as stonework, and because it is quite soft, you can see them so you can see the mark there. If you're using a bit of metal, you can scrape away pattern work and carve into it really nicely. So what I've actually done is, bring up some examples of some of the stuff I have been doing. Shows some of the sort of things you can do with it. So this was my first one. Originally just the sort of two separates, then I added this one more recently. But you've got a sort of arch there, and then you can see sort of carvings that you can do quite easily. And you see it inside there, sort of Yggdrasil tree, so all sort of Viking heritage, but certainly not grossly out of period. And again, with sort of the damp earth effect on the bases there. And the base itself is just an old CD. I find these really, really useful for sort of basing single features. So I've done that one, and then a couple of small things so I can sort of build a full sort of Stonehenge effect. And again, you could carve in individual letters if you wanted to, place it round in a sort of stone effect. Several pieces just I use No More Nails, really good adhesive, to glue them all together, and then you can also sort of add some on the base as well. But sort of rocky outcroppings there. Again, another CD base. With this one, I've actually sort of given sort of mystical feature, so I'll sort of cut through a hole through there to actually crack down. I reinforce it with the No More Nails again, so it's quite tough. A little feature, and then certainly if you're using larger pieces, based on a bit of 5mm plasticard, because certainly anything weaker I think might end up bending, or certainly if you're using something like cardboard or something like that, it's going to go and all your hard work will be wasted. But yeah, sort of quite a big slab of bark there. I built a sort of a tall rocky outcrop. So I just need to get a decent mat to add all these onto. So I've done all of those, and what I've also done, I picked up several years ago, Games Workshop sort of fencing set. So I'd actually got around to painting those. So again, all done the same sort of style. And then sort of added sort of the ivy that is from Army Painter, their terrain selection. So again, something like there, so fencing there, and a nice little test example for me how I want to do my wattle because I've got some other stuff coming on the way. That's a nice test example for me doing some wattle fencing as well. So some soft features there, and then just some pure stonework. And what I did actually added again one of these on just to sort of tie it in with the stone theme that I've got, and then sort of all the little sort of dead leaves as well. Those are actually birch seeds, but they're fairly easy to get hold of various places. So I use eBay for an awful lot for supplies and topping myself up. So that's where we are at the moment. An awful lot of terrain done. I need to get I'll probably use sort of fir mat or one of the similar things to do a sort of a base mat for the terrain. I've seen quite a few done work really well with the sort of the genre. Next then is that to either work on the she units, and then the Fomorians. Trying really hard to make sure that I paint off all of these before I go anymore. Rarely happens, but there we are. We will see for that. But certainly really enjoying this. I hope that's been useful, interesting, filled 50 minutes of your time. I'll post this on the blog with some more pictures of the figures. And then I'll update once I've got something to say. Okay, this is Copper Oracle signing off. Thank you for watching.